The boutique stood like a glass box, glowing from within under soft golden light. To anyone else, it was just another high-end clothing store tucked neatly between a florist and a spa on a polished suburban street. But to Adam Lawrence, it had become something else entirely. A ritual, a temptation, a reason to take the long route home. The first time he saw her, it was supposed to be a quick stop. He had needed a gift for his wife, something expensive enough to look thoughtful and generic enough to be safe. Then he saw her. Her name tag said Melissa, and her smile was effortlessly warm. She looked to be in her early 20s, no older than 23. Platinum blonde hair framed her soft face, falling in relaxed waves just past her shoulders. Her eyes, icy blue, vivid, striking, seemed to meet his with intention, even though he knew better. Melissa wore a fitted, blush-colored midi dress that hugged her curves like silk on skin. The neckline hinted at the soft swell of her chest. Her breasts modest, perky, perhaps a B-cup, but proportioned exquisitely for her slim waist and full hips. Her figure followed the shape of an hourglass, with a round, firm butt that pressed the dress just enough to make him glance twice. When she bent slightly to adjust a display, the outline of lace lingerie, cream-colored, delicate, subtly appeared through the fabric. It wasn't vulgar. It was deliberate. She had to know. Adam was no fool. He had seen beauty before. He was 35, successful, and married to a woman others would call stunning. Sarah, his wife, was a tall brunette with dark, intelligent eyes and a naturally poised body. Long legs, toned arms, a sharp mind. But there was something predictable about Sarah now. Controlled, professional, planned. Melissa was none of those things. She was spontaneous and electric, a flame flickering under glass. Looking for something special? She had asked, tilting her head with that half smile that knew more than it let on. I think I just found it, he'd answered. It had come out before he thought. Her eyes didn't blink. He returned 3 days later. This time, he wasn't even pretending to look for something. He lingered by the accessories while Melissa arranged shoes. The third time, he asked her name. The fourth, he complimented her perfume. The fifth, he invited her to dinner. She hesitated, not because she was shocked, more as if she was weighing the decision like she'd already considered it. Do you always invite shop girls out? She asked. Only the dangerously beautiful ones, he said, smiling. And only when I can't stop thinking about them. That night, they met at a quiet restaurant tucked away behind a row of hotels. Not the kind of place where someone would casually run into his wife. Melissa arrived wearing a soft blue silk blouse that clung to her chest, the top 2 buttons teasing just enough. Her pencil skirt was navy, high-waisted, revealing the subtle curve of her hips as she walked. As she sat down, the fabric rode up slightly, revealing the creamy skin of her thigh. She crossed her legs with elegance and danger. Their conversation was light but charged. She didn't ask much about his marriage, and he didn't offer. They spoke about art, food, travel. She laughed easily, and when she leaned forward, her perfume caught his senses. vanilla, musk, something almost edible. After dessert, she stood and said, "There's a private lounge on the second floor. They serve better coffee. Come." He followed. The door closed behind them with a hush. The lounge was dim, velvet-lined, and mostly empty. Melissa stepped back against the wall, her eyes searching his. Adam reached out slowly, placing a hand on her waist. Her breath caught. Their lips met, soft at first, then deeper, hungrier. His hand traced her side, feeling the texture of the thin blouse, then lower to the swell of her hip. She arched toward him, her chest brushing his. "You smell like temptation," he whispered. Melissa smiled, sliding his jacket off his shoulders. Her fingers found the buttons of his shirt, undoing them with the ease of someone practiced but not rushed. He kissed her neck, slow and warm, and she let out a quiet sound, half breath, half moan. Her hand slid under his shirt, across his chest. He reached down and gently lifted the hem of her skirt. Her thigh was warm and smooth. His fingers found the top of her stockings and the cool edge of her lace panties. She was breathing faster now, eyes closed. Her back hit the wall. He kissed lower, her collarbone, her shoulder, until her head fell back and her lips parted in silent ecstasy. "Touch me," she said softly, and he did. Later, as they returned to their cars, the spell remained unbroken. Adam looked at her under the soft glow of the street lamp. "Was this just a one-time thing?" he asked. Melissa looked at him for a long second, then walked over, placed a soft kiss on his cheek, and whispered, "That depends on whether you come back." He drove home in silence, the scent of her skin still on his hands. Sarah was asleep when he got in. He kissed her forehead, quietly changed, and stared at himself in the mirror. Something had been stirred, something that wouldn't easily return to stillness. Adam found himself thinking of Melissa at the oddest times. During meetings, in traffic, in the quiet hush of his home when Sarah was reading by the window. The memory of Melissa's perfume lingered like an invisible touch, as did the sensation of her warm skin. The memory of her eyes shining in the dark. He invented errands to pass the boutique. Sometimes he did not even go inside, content just to see her silhouette behind the glass, arranging dresses or laughing with customers. When she noticed him, her lips would curve with mischief. Sometimes she simply ignored him, making him crave her attention even more. Melissa did not make it easy. She agreed to another dinner, but only after he asked twice, and even then she made him wait a week. "Busy schedule?" she'd said with a sly grin. Adam could not decide if she was playing hard to get, or if he was just losing his mind over a woman he barely knew. When the next dinner finally came, Adam arrived early, nervous in a way he had not been for years. He chose a quiet Italian place where the lights were low and the wine was good. Melissa arrived wearing a form-fitting emerald dress with a deep neckline that showcased the delicate line of her collarbones. Her hair was loose and slightly curled. She wore subtle gold earrings and a tiny gold chain that shimmered against her skin. As she slipped off her coat, Adam's eyes lingered on her. The green dress hugged her figure perfectly, accentuating the curve of her breasts and the dip of her waist. The skirt ended just above the knee, revealing her toned calves. When she leaned in to take his hand, he caught a flash of pale green lace at the edge of her dress. A matching set, surely, of the kind of lingerie that made his pulse race. Melissa was more talkative tonight, sharing stories about her college days, her love of painting, her plans to travel. Adam listened, enthralled, losing himself in her words and laughter. But even as they talked, he felt tension under the table. Her hand resting lightly on his thigh, fingers tracing tiny circles through the fabric of his trousers. After dinner, they did not say goodbye at the door. Instead, Melissa suggested a hotel nearby. Just for a drink, she teased. But Adam knew she meant more. The room was softly lit, the bed wide and inviting, sheets crisp and white. Melissa stood by the window, watching the city lights. Adam moved behind her, sliding his arms around her waist, kissing her neck. She turned, her lips finding his, urgent and hungry. He lifted her easily, carrying her to the bed, laying her down gently. She unzipped her dress, letting it slip to the floor, revealing the pale green lace, bra and panties. Delicate, sheer, perfectly fitted to her slim curves. Her breasts were small but round, her waist narrow, her hips flaring gently to a firm, round bottom. Her skin was flawless, pale and smooth beneath his hands. Adam kissed along her collarbone, down between her breasts, his hands exploring the curves of her body. Melissa's fingers tangled in his hair as he pressed his mouth to her stomach, her thighs. She arched beneath him, her breath catching, her body warm and eager. He slid her panties down, trailing kisses along her legs, and she gasped softly, her hands reaching for him. Their bodies moved together, skin on skin, soft sheets tangled beneath them. She whispered his name, her voice trembling with desire, and Adam lost himself in her, every thought dissolving into sensation. They lay together after, limbs entwined, breath slowing. Melissa traced circles on his chest with her fingertip, thoughtful. "Does your wife suspect?" she asked, voice soft. Adam stiffened, staring at the ceiling. "No, she trusts me." Melissa was quiet for a long moment. "That's rare," she said finally, her tone unreadable. He rolled onto his side to face her. "What about you? Do you trust me?" She laughed, a low, secretive sound. "I trust you to be exactly what you are." He did not know what that meant, and before he could ask, Melissa kissed him again, pulling him close, making him forget everything else. The days blurred together after that. Adam and Melissa saw each other whenever they could. Dinners, hotel rooms, quick lunches in hidden cafes. Sometimes they just walked through the park, hands barely touching, pretending for a moment that they were just another couple, free of secrets. But secrets, of course, do not stay buried. Sarah, meanwhile, began to notice changes. Adam was distracted, restless, coming home late more often. He claimed work was busy, and she tried to believe him. She watched him across the dinner table, seeing the distance in his eyes, the way he smiled at nothing, lost in some other world. She mentioned it to her friend, Hannah, over coffee one afternoon. Maybe he's just tired, Hannah offered. But Sarah shook her head. It feels different, like he's hiding something. Hannah squeezed her hand. If you want, I know someone who can check for you. Discreetly. Sarah hesitated, her heart heavy. She did not want to be the kind of wife who spied on her husband. But the seed of doubt had been planted. Adam was oblivious to the storm brewing at home. He was falling deeper into Melissa's world, intoxicated by her touch, her laughter, her unpredictability. He learned that she painted landscapes in her tiny apartment, that she loved old movies and red wine, that she hated cold weather but loved snow. One afternoon, while Melissa dressed after another stolen hour together, Adam watched her pull on a pale blue bra, matching lace panties, and a loose white blouse. He admired the gentle curve of her waist, the way her body moved with casual confidence. "Will I see you tomorrow?" he asked, unable to hide the longing in his voice. She smiled, fastening her earrings. "Maybe, if you're lucky." He reached for her, pulling her close, their bodies pressing together. She kissed him softly, her hands on his chest. He slid his hands down her back, tracing the line of her spine, cupping the curve of her bottom through the thin fabric of her panties. Melissa pressed against him, her body warm and yielding. Their lips met again, deeper this time, as she guided his hands beneath her blouse. Adam explored the shape of her breasts, feeling the softness of her skin, the rapid beat of her heart. Melissa moaned quietly, arching into his touch, her breath hot against his neck. They moved to the bed, clothes falling away, limbs entwined in urgent embrace. Adam worshipped her with his hands and mouth, tracing every line, every freckle, every secret place. Melissa shivered beneath him, her nails digging into his shoulders, her voice whispering his name over and over, as pleasure washed through her in slow, endless waves. That evening, Melissa sat alone in her apartment, staring at her phone. She scrolled through old photos, smiling faces, crowded rooms, laughter. Then she found herself looking at a picture of Adam, taken secretly at the boutique weeks ago. She studied his face, the way his eyes crinkled when he told, the way his mouth looked when he was thinking. Her thumb hovered over the screen. She hesitated. Then she saved the photo in a hidden folder and locked her phone. For the first time, she wondered what would happen if she let herself fall. At home, Sarah waited for Adam to return, her thoughts churning. She did not know yet, but the balance of her marriage was shifting. Something was unraveling, slow and silent, like silk slipping through her fingers. Sarah's fingers hesitated over the phone number Hannah had given her. She stared at the slip of paper for hours, her mind replaying every small oddity in Adam's behavior. Late nights, short answers, the ghost of a smile that had nothing to do with her. She didn't want to doubt him, but the feeling gnawed at her, an ache that would not fade. Finally, with trembling hands, she dialed the number. The man on the other end introduced himself as Evan Miles, a private investigator. His voice was calm and businesslike. Sarah told him she was probably being paranoid, that she hoped he would find nothing at all. Evan listened without judgment. "I'll be discreet," he assured her. "You'll hear from me soon." Meanwhile, Adam's world was far from discreet. He and Melissa had fallen into a routine of secret pleasures and stolen afternoons. Every moment was a risk, every glance in public a thrill. The world around them faded whenever they were together, as if only they existed in those precious hours. But in the shadows, eyes were watching. Melissa's colleague at the boutique, Leila, had noticed the way Adam's visits lingered, the way Melissa glowed after he left. Leila snapped a picture one afternoon, the two of them laughing by the register, her hand resting just a little too comfortably on Adam's arm. She sent the photo to her sister, who happened to be friends with Hannah's daughter, Natalie. Natalie, a college sophomore with a keen eye for drama, saw the message and recognized Adam from the family's social events. She quietly saved the photo and sent it to her mother, who showed it to Hannah. The web of suspicion was weaving itself without anyone truly realizing how tangled it was about to become. At the same time, Melissa felt a change in the air. She caught glimpses of people she didn't know watching her just a little too closely on the street. Felt the weight of glances that lingered a moment too long. One evening, as she left the boutique, she noticed a car parked across the street, its headlights flicking off as she looked over. Was she imagining things, or was she being followed? She called Adam that night, her voice unusually hesitant. "Adam, has anyone been asking about us?" He was silent, then laughed it off. "You're getting paranoid, Mel. No one cares about a boring married man like me." But Melissa couldn't shake the feeling. When she closed her eyes, she saw flashes of Lila's curious stare, heard the murmur of voices behind her back. The thrill of their affair was changing into something else, a kind of nervousness, a tension she hadn't expected. Sarah sat with Hannah one afternoon, sipping coffee as Natalie scrolled through her phone nearby. The photo appeared suddenly on the screen, Adam and Melissa laughing, her hand on his arm, eyes bright and full of a secret. Sarah's heart plummeted. "Where did you get this?" she whispered, her hands trembling. Natalie shrugged. "Lila posted it in her story. I think it's just some boutique thing." But Hannah met Sarah's gaze and knew. Sarah's doubts were suddenly a storm, real and unavoidable. That night, Sarah confronted Adam. She waited until after dinner, when the house was quiet and the world had shrunk to just the two of them. "Adam," she said quietly, "where have you been spending your evenings lately?" He looked up from his phone, surprise flickering across his face. "Working late? There's a new project at the office." She nodded, her face calm, but her eyes searching. "And the boutique? Do you go there often?" Adam hesitated, the lie forming on his lips, before he could stop it. "No more than usual. Why?" Sarah stared at him a moment longer, then stood and left the room, her silence heavier than any accusation. Meanwhile, Melissa's unease grew. She scrolled through her own social media and saw the photo Lila had taken, now gone from Lila's story, but already spreading among friends. Her stomach twisted. She wondered how much Adam's wife knew, how close they were to being discovered. That evening, Melissa met Adam at their usual hotel. The room was already dimly lit, the city glowing through the windows. She stepped out of her coat, revealing a short, silver-slip dress that shimmered as she moved. The straps rested delicately on her bare shoulders, the dress clinging to her curves, the hem brushing the top of her thighs. Underneath, she wore a matching set of silver satin bra and panties, the fabric smooth against her skin, highlighting the gentle rise of her breasts and the round curve of her hips. Her platinum hair fell loose, framing her face and falling across her shoulders in waves. Adam's breath caught as he saw her. He crossed the room in 2 strides, his hands sliding over her waist, pulling her close. He pressed her against the wall, his lips capturing hers in a hungry kiss. His hands traced her sides, fingers slipping beneath the silver fabric to find the warmth of her skin. Melissa moaned softly, her body arching into him, her breath quickening. He lifted her easily, her legs wrapping around his waist, their bodies pressed close as the city lights flickered behind them. He kissed down her neck, his lips tracing the line of her collarbone, down to the edge of her bra. Melissa's hands tangled in his hair as he worshipped her, every touch electric, every kiss a promise. She gasped as his mouth found her breast, his hands sliding down to cup the curve of her bottom, pulling her closer. The world outside faded, leaving only the two of them, lost in each other's arms. Afterwards, as they lay tangled in the sheets, Melissa turned to him, her eyes dark. "Adam, if this gets out, what will you do?" He hesitated, tracing circles on her hip. "I don't know. I keep thinking I'll figure it out. But right now, I just want you." Melissa smiled, but it did not reach her eye. A shadow passed over her face, something Adam couldn't read. The next day, Sarah received a message from Evan, the investigator. He sent her a handful of photos. Adam entering the boutique, Adam and Melissa at a restaurant, Adam and Melissa entering a hotel. Each image was a knife to the heart, proof of what she had feared. Sarah sat on her bed, the photos spread before her, tears streaming down her face. She felt betrayed, foolish, furious. But above all, she felt a strange clarity. The truth was inescapable. Now she had to decide what to do with it. Melissa, meanwhile, received a message from an unknown number. "I know who you are. Stop before it's too late." Her hands shook as she read it. She looked around her empty apartment, every shadow suddenly threatening. She thought about Adam, about the danger, about how easily pleasure had become something else, something sharper, edged with risk. She knew now. Innocence was gone. The affair was no longer a secret joy. It was a fuse, burning closer to something that could explode at any moment. And elsewhere, Sarah began to make plans. She would not confront Adam, not yet. Instead, she decided to invite Melissa to a dinner at their home, using the excuse of a professional collaboration. Adam would have to face both women at once, under the bright light of truth. She sent the invitation, heart pounding, already imagining the shock in Adam's eyes. The invitation arrived on Melissa's phone as she left work. The message was polite, but unmistakably formal, signed by Sarah Lawrence herself. She read it twice, hardly believing it. Dear Melissa, Adam has told me about your talent in design. I would be delighted if you could join us for dinner at our home this Saturday to discuss a new project. Melissa's hand trembled as she held her phone. She looked up, scanning the evening crowd. Had Sarah truly discovered everything? Or was this some sort of test? A way of exposing her without a word? She could have refused, invented an excuse. But something deep inside her was tired of running. She typed a brief reply accepting the invitation. The moment she hit send, her heart hammered so loud she barely heard Lila calling her from the store window. Saturday evening arrived too quickly. Melissa stood in front of her closet trying to decide what to wear. Her body was tense with nerves. Her mind was running wild with possibilities. She finally chose a tasteful, elegant look. A fitted black pencil skirt that emphasized her slim waist and rounded hips, paired with a creamy silk blouse with pearl buttons. Underneath, she wore a matching black lace bra and panties. Expensive, delicate, the kind that felt like a secret armor. She added simple pearl earrings, styled her platinum hair into soft waves, and finished the look with subtle makeup, letting her blue eyes stand out. As she drove to the address, her thoughts raced. Would Sarah be hostile? Would Adam panic? Would there be anyone else at the table, watching for a sign of guilt? Adam was in the kitchen with Sarah when Melissa arrived. He had not known about the invitation until that morning. When Sarah mentioned it over breakfast, her tone casual, he nearly dropped his coffee. Melissa, you invited her, he managed, forcing a smile. She's quite talented, Sarah replied, her eyes meeting his in a way that told him she already knew too much. And I think we could use some fresh ideas. Adam's pulse hammered in his throat. He tried to act normal, helped Sarah set the table, poured her wine, forced small talk. But every moment was colored by dread. When Melissa rang the doorbell, Adam opened the door. He had dressed carefully, choosing a crisp blue shirt and tailored trousers. His eyes widened as he saw Melissa standing there, beautiful and composed, her gaze steady. For a moment, they stood in silence, words trapped between them. Come in, he said finally, stepping aside. Sarah greeted Melissa with a warm smile. Thank you for coming. Please make yourself at home. Melissa smiled back, her heart pounding. Thank you for inviting me. They moved to the dining room, where the table was set for 4. Adam glanced at the extra place setting, surprised. Sarah noticed his look and smiled, explaining, I invited a friend who knows about our project. She should be here soon. A few minutes later, Hannah arrived, joining them with her easy laughter. She greeted Sarah and Adam, then turned to Melissa. I've heard a lot about you, she said. Her eyes sparkled with something Melissa could not quite read. Sympathy, perhaps. Curiosity. Dinner began with a light conversation. Sarah asked about Melissa's work, her interests, her background. Melissa answered as honestly as she could, careful not to reveal too much. Every word felt like a test, every smile edged with something sharp. Hannah steered the conversation to design, asking Melissa's opinion on color palettes and fabric textures. Adam tried to keep up, But his mind was elsewhere, watching Sarah for signs of anger, watching Melissa for signs of fear. Sarah, meanwhile, watched them both. She poured more wine, her tone soft, her questions gentle but relentless. She spoke about trust, about the importance of loyalty in relationships, both personal and professional. Melissa felt sweat prickling at her back. She glanced at Adam, who looked pale and tense, his fingers tapping nervously against his glass. After the main course, Sarah excused herself to the kitchen, leaving Adam, Melissa, and Hannah at the table. Hannah turned to Melissa, lowering her voice. "Are you happy with your life, Melissa?" she asked, not unkindly. "Are you where you want to be?" Melissa hesitated, then shook her head. "Not always. But I try to be honest with myself. That's all anyone can do." Hannah nodded. "Honesty is rare. I hope you keep it." Zara returned with dessert. She served each plate herself, her movements precise. When she set a slice in front of Melissa, their eyes met, and for a moment, the world seemed to stop. As they ate, Sarah revealed the project was a redesign of her own study, a room that she said needed new energy. She invited Melissa to come upstairs and see it, and Melissa agreed, unable to refuse. Adam followed them up the staircase, his heart thundering. The study was filled with books, photographs, and a wide desk. Sarah closed the door behind them, turning to face Melissa with calm authority. "I want to be clear, Melissa," Sarah began, her voice soft but steady. "I know about you and Adam. I have known for some time." Adam's breath caught. Melissa's eyes widened, then softened. Sarah continued. "I'm not here to humiliate anyone. I want honesty. I want to know why." Melissa's hands twisted together. "I never meant to hurt you. I never planned for this. I couldn't help myself." Sarah nodded, her gaze unwavering. "And you, Adam?" He looked at his wife, guilt and longing at war in his face. "I'm sorry, Sarah. I never wanted to lose you." But with Melissa, I felt something I had not felt in a long time. Sarah's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them away. "Thank you for telling the truth. Now we can move forward, one way or another." The three stood in silence. For a moment, nothing moved but the ticking of the old clock on the desk. Then Sarah spoke again. "Melissa, did you know Adam was married from the beginning?" Melissa nodded. "Yes, I knew. I told myself I would not fall for him, but I did." Adam looked at her, something breaking inside him. "Melissa?" Sarah's expression was unreadable. "I hope you both understand how much pain secrets can cause." She turned away, her shoulders trembling. Adam stepped toward her, but she raised a hand, stopping him. "Give me some time," she said quietly. "Both of you, I need to think." She left the study, closing the door behind her. Alone together, Adam and Melissa sat side by side in the quiet room. For the first time they spoke openly about their affair, about the risks, about the feelings neither could deny. "I never wanted to hurt her," Adam said, his voice rough. "But I cannot pretend I do not care for you. Melissa touched his hand, tears slipping down her cheeks. I care for you too, but maybe we have already gone too far. Downstairs, Hannah found Sarah in the kitchen, her face streaked with tears. You did the right thing, Hannah whispered, embracing her. Now you can heal. Sarah nodded, her heart breaking, but lighter for having finally faced the truth. That night, Melissa walked home under the city lights, her mind a storm of regret and relief. She realized how deeply she had fallen, not only for Adam, but for the life she had imagined, a life built on secrets and longing. As she crossed the street, a car slowed beside her. She looked up, heart racing, but it was only a neighbor. Still, she felt the invisible eyes on her, the sense that her story was not yet finished. In her apartment, she poured herself a glass of wine and stared at her reflection. The woman in the mirror was no longer a mystery to herself. She was someone who had crossed a line and now stood on the edge of something new, something uncertain, but finally honest. For days after the dinner, Adam's world shifted between silence and storm. Sarah avoided him. Her presence felt in the house like a ghost, moving quietly from room to room. The air between them was fragile, full of words neither dared to say. Adam barely slept, haunted by memories of Melissa and the devastation in Sarah's eyes. At work, Adam went through the motions, his mind elsewhere. He kept his phone silent, afraid of what Melissa might say, afraid to call Sarah, afraid to do anything that would tip the delicate balance that still held his life together. Melissa, too, was adrift. She stopped going to the boutique for a few days, leaving Lila and the other girls puzzled. She wandered the city instead, finding comfort in crowded parks and busy streets, searching for herself in the faces of strangers. In the evenings, she painted furiously, landscapes with heavy stormy skies, scenes where the sun struggled to break through the clouds. She ignored Adam's text at first, but after the fourth day, she answered, "Can we talk?" He replied at once, "Please, I need to see you." They agreed to meet at a quiet cafe away from their usual haunts, a place where the tables were scattered and nobody paid attention to anyone else. Melissa arrived first, wearing a simple navy dress that clung softly to her figure. Her hair gathered into a low ponytail. Her makeup was minimal, but her blue eyes seemed even brighter than before, as if sharpened by all she had endured. Underneath, she wore a pale lavender set, lace bra and matching panties, chosen without thought, a habit of self-protection. Adam looked tired when he arrived, his shirt wrinkled, his jaw shadowed with stubble. They sat in silence at first, each waiting for the other to speak. Finally, Adam broke the silence. "Sarah knows everything. She confronted me. I do not know what to do." Melissa nodded, her hands wrapped around her coffee cup. "She told me. She was kind, but it hurt." Adam's voice was low. "I'm sorry. I never wanted to hurt anyone. When I'm with you, I feel alive. I thought maybe we could start again, somehow." Melissa shook her head. tears gathering in her eyes. There is no going back, Adam. Not for any of us. Adam reached for her hand, his fingers trembling. She let him hold it, but her heart felt heavy, her mind caught between longing and regret. They left the cafe together, walking quietly through a side street. In the shadow of an old brick wall, Adam pulled her gently into his arms. Their lips met, a desperate, aching kiss, full of everything they could not say. Melissa pressed against him, feeling his heart pounding, his body warm and familiar. His hands traced her waist, slid under her dress, finding the curve of her hip, the lace beneath. She shivered in his embrace, her breath trembling, her body remembering every secret they had ever shared. For a moment, nothing else existed. But even as they clung to each other, they both knew it was goodbye. That evening, Sarah returned home to find Adam sitting on the back porch, staring into the dusk. She hesitated in the doorway, then joined him, folding her arms against the cool air. "Are you going to leave me?" Adam asked quietly, not looking up. Sarah sat beside him, silent for a long time. "I do not know," she said at last. "Part of me wants to run away and never look back. Part of me wants to forgive you, but none of me wants to pretend anymore." Adam nodded, shame heavy on his face. "I'm sorry, Sarah. Truly. I wish I could take it all back." Sarah's eyes were tired but clear. "We both let our marriage slip away, Adam. You found someone who made you feel alive. I let myself grow distant, safe. Maybe we were both to blame." They sat in silence, watching the last rays of sun fade. For the first time, the silence was not angry, just real. A week passed. Melissa decided it was time to leave. She packed her things into 2 suitcases, leaving behind her apartment and the life that had become too small, too haunted by secrets. Before she left, she called her younger brother, Ben, who had just started bartending at a lounge across town. He arrived to help her carry boxes, his easy smile a comfort in the whirlwind. "You sure about this, Mel?" Ben asked, pushing a strand of hair from his eyes. Melissa nodded. "I need a new start." Ben hugged her tight. "You will find it." As they loaded the last suitcase, Melissa took one last look at her empty apartment. The pale blue walls, the art supplies by the window, the ghost of dreams she once believed in. Meanwhile, Sarah met with Hannah for coffee. Hannah listened quietly as Sarah poured out her heart. The betrayal, the anger, the strange relief that the truth was finally out. "You are stronger than you know," Hannah said. "You do not have to decide anything today. Just breathe." Sarah smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "Thank you. I think I want to be alone for a while. Figure out who I am without Adam, without anyone." That night, Adam received a message from Melissa. "I'm leaving the city. I do not know if I will ever see you again, but I want you to know I did love you. I just could not keep living in a lie." Adam stared at the words for a long time, then typed and deleted 6 replies. In the end, he just wrote, "I will always remember you. Sarah and Adam separated quietly. There were no shouting matches, no scenes. They told friends they were taking a break. In truth, they both knew it was the only way to heal. Melissa started over in a new town, working as a designer at a small boutique, painting in the evenings, learning to live with her choices. Adam learned to live alone, to find meaning in work and in small kindnesses. Sometimes he would catch a scent in the air, a trace of vanilla and musk, and remember. But the memories no longer hurt. They were simply part of his story, woven into the fabric of who he was becoming. 3 months later, on a bright spring morning, Adam sat in a cafe, reading the news on his phone. The sun slanted through the windows, warming his shoulders. As he reached for his coffee, a voice spoke beside him. "Excuse me, is this seat taken?" He looked up, and for a moment, his heart stopped. The woman before him was striking. Platinum blonde hair, vivid blue eyes, a slender, curvy figure in a simple white dress. Her smile was open, curious, nothing like Melissa's, and yet he smiled back, gesturing to the chair. "Please, sit. I am Adam." She smiled, a little shy. "Nice to meet you, Adam. I am Claire." They talked at first about coffee, then books, then the small joys of life. Adam felt something shift inside him. Not the wild hunger he once knew, but a gentle spark of hope. Maybe, he thought, the world was full of second chances.